Good day, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Crane Talks. My name is Travis. You can find me on TikTok at Timberline7. We're really excited here. We're on to our second podcast. As I checked our first podcast on YouTube today, we're up to 51 views on there. And probably, I think, about 15 followers on the YouTube channel Crane Talk.
Nice.
So today, we're welcoming back Kenny, otherwise known as, you can find him on TikTok as the Hack Job. And we got a new participant today of Crane Guy 76. You guys see him on doing the oil field stuff and a lot of the safety videos. So Chris, what's going on, man?
Man, I'm just happy to be here. Sorry I missed out on the first one. I'm just excited to share what I got with y'all.
Dude, it's so cool that you're here. Unfortunately, Moose wasn't able to make it for this one. So this is what we got. And today's episode is going to be pretty cool. We're still covering intro level cranes. And today we're going to go over the types of cranes that there are, because there is a plethora of different types and styles of cranes, each one specific for a different role. And that's what we want to talk about today. We want to talk about the different types, what they're used for, what situations you would get in for these cranes, their pros, their cons, and the quirks that each one has compared to the other ones. So let's get her started.
Jump right in. Shoot.
All right. So the first one we're going to cover is crawlers, and we're going to refer to Kenny, since he is our resident crawler hand, A&D director, which means he assembles and disassembles these cranes on a daily basis.
All right. Well, let's just dive right in here. When we jump in, we got small crawlers here, and small crawlers can be 80 tons up to, say, 200 tons. Pictured, we have the 218. These little crawlers are fun. They're very, very versatile. They're lightweight considering. They're easily assembled. The ones pictured could be put together in 3 to 4 hours without even like breaking a sweat. Very versatile, say on bridge jobs. You see them with a hammer and leads, driving pile, vibro hammer, things of that nature. They move around the job without too much damage to the job, whereas, say, large tired machines with a smaller footprint would rut it up real bad because, could get stuck, things of that nature. These little cranes, I'm sorry.
No, just curious question. I mean, crawlers, they're not on outriggers. What keeps the crane from falling over?
Just their engineering. They're, of course, we all know outriggered machines are 80% or 85% stability. Crawlers are 75% of their chart, meaning you have a tipping hazard up to 75% capacity, and then it becomes structural, meaning you'll break something before it'll tip over. It's just the way that they're engineered and balanced. There's, call it 3 quadrants to a crawler: over the front, over the side, and over the corner. Over the side is the least ground bearing pressure because you've got such a larger footprint, but it's the least stable quadrant. Over the corner is the strongest, most stable, but it creates the most ground bearing pressure, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just how they're engineered. They're basically a square.
Nice.
You follow your chart and they work.
Nice. All right, let's move on. More crawlers. Here we got the big crawlers.
Ooh, you got the fun ones here. These are designed to pick heavy at long reaches, especially the one to the right, the Libera LR 13,000. What a monster of a crane, 3,000 ton maximum capacity. That, as you see, it's pictured with a refinery right there. That's predominantly what it's for, to reach out into an existing refinery to large weights, say 200 tons at a 400-foot radius. That is an insane pick, and that's what it's designed for. These cranes are more of an engineered setup. The pads are engineered, the lifts are engineered. The time frame that is put out to build these, you're going to spend 2 to 3 to 4 weeks building these this size of a crane right here to do the work.
So, what would you put the price tag on one of those?
10, 12, $15 million, just shooting off the top of my head here.
That's incredible.
Yeah. Yeah, it's insane.
All right. Well, let's move on to when you marry a crane with a a hydro, a crawler
Yeah.
and a hydro, this is what you get.
Yeah.
What do you think of the telecrawlers?
We use these a lot down here in South Louisiana in the tank farms. To build tanks because it's such a muddy environment that they'll use these to go in. Pretty handy there.
Well, really? So it's like taking an AT crane into places that you can't take an AT crane.
Yeah, not in South Louisiana. You'll sink to the deck.
Mm-hmm. Damn. So, all right, very nice. Kenny, you got anything else to add on how you feel about telecrawlers versus lattice crawlers?
They're great machines. I've been around them. They, like you said, you can get in somewhere quick with it, and low clearance places. Unlike a regular crawler, where when you build the boom with your fixed boom, these you can retract it, get low, sneak in there, squirt out, do your job, and get back out of there.
Nice.
Great machines. So.
All right. And then we got the old school style.
There you go.
Lattice truck mount. Are they still manufacturing these? Because I have seen them around, but you don't see them as often. It's like these are being phased out.
Yeah, Liebherr still manufactures a 900-ton version, the LG 1750. They still manufacture it, and it's used predominantly just like the big crawler we was talking about. It's a 900-ton lattice boom truck mount.
Mm-hmm.
You see these pop up, smaller, more rural areas. They're older machines. I don't believe Manitowoc definitely doesn't manufacture one. I don't believe Link-Belt does. They're just kind of a dying breed. The ATs and the hydraulic cranes have kind of taken over that right there. That used to be the drive it in there, stab the boom, and do the job deal. Now the squirt booms have taken that away from it. So
yeah, because I remember the old timers used to love those cranes because that's from what they came up on.
Mm-hmm.
And they tell me stories about how modern day our crane operators don't know what hard work is, because they'd have to take 200 feet of boom plus 3 or 4 loads of counterweight, pound all that in, run out the cable, reeve it up, do the job, tear it all back apart again, and then you do that 2-3 times a day at multiple jobs.
Yeah.
So I worked in San Antonio for a little while, and we had those truck mounts, and we used them a lot for concrete tilt ups.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, that's exactly what we did, and they knocked even our 300 ton, the entire upper house would come up on its own jacks, and then you back a trailer under it, and the carrier would go off, the house would go off. We'd take 160 feet of boom. We had a pintle hitch right on the nose of the boom that you would set in the back of a pickup truck, a gooseneck receiver, and set that in the back of a pickup truck, throw a set of trailer tandems underneath the other side of the boom, and off that pickup truck would run with 150 feet of stick. It was a trip.
That's cool.
So, all right, let's move on to our next category here. To towers. This is like everybody's favorite. This is my son's favorite. If it's not a tower crane, he's not even interested. So, and again, unfortunately, our resident tower expert wasn't able to be here tonight. He's probably still sitting up in his glass box of emotions doing a concrete pour. So we're going to do our best to tell you what we know about the tower cranes, even though not one of us is tower crane certified. So, but from our general knowledge of cranes, what you see on the screen here are 2 of the 3 different types of towers. The one on the left is considered a flat top tower. It's less capacity, but also less moving parts and, cheaper to assemble. Potane, one of the major manufacturers of tower cranes owned by Manitowoc, their tower cranes rate anywhere from 3.5 tons all the way up to 88 tons, with a radius of 150 feet up to 278 feet of jib. So the one on the right, that is a hammerhead tower crane, because you see it's got the spire there, and then the pennant arms that come down to help reinforce the crane. That's when you get up to the bigger 88 tons, and you get that longer stick of 278 feet.
It's a reach on a tower crane.
Oh, I know, right? You could cover a lot of ground.
Yeah, I don't know much about them. I've helped a little bit on the one that we have out of our branch up here. I'm hoping to get in on the disassembly of it, so I can learn more about it. For so long, I've swore them off, and just as I progress, get older, I get more and more interested in it, the inner workings of it and how they work and everything. They're interesting machines for sure. I really wish I'd have taken time to learn more about them.
Well, it's kind of a bucket list item for me, just to kind of say I've done it, and something I've always kind of wanted to get into. I know I've talked to Moose quite a bit about it. Where I say they excel is the footprint, because every crane, the footprint that the crane comes into a lot of play, especially when you get into crawlers and ATs and you need to get them in tight areas. That's why you always see tower cranes on downtown city urban areas, because hell, Moose's tower crane's footprint is a 10 by 10 foot square. Not one of our cranes will sit in the footprint that Moose's crane could fit in.
Mm-hmm.
So the drawbacks of these things, are they take time to build. They are obviously meant for long-term projects that last months and even years, where, you're not going to put up a tower crane if you only need it to make a couple picks, like you would bring in an AT or a crawler. So, Chris, have you got any thoughts on that?
Yeah, one of the things about the tower cranes is like they'll only freestand so high, and then after, if the building is going to continue to rise, they'll actually attach they'll collar to the building to get the stability they need to continue with the height. A lot of times they'll put two towers on the same job site at different elevations, and it's up to those two operators to maintain communication so that they don't swing into each other with the load. But they can work two corners of a building and be able to pass material from one side to the other if they need to. Pretty interesting. It's just not my cup of tea. I'm scared of heights. I just don't mind looking up.
Oh, yeah. Well, also our other tower operator, Josh Louette, also on TikTok. I highly recommend looking up his stuff. He's done a number of funny things, especially I think his latest one was, how to get off your job quickly, and having one tower crane. The joke was have one tower crane come up and collide with the other, because these tower cranes have computer monitoring systems to ensure that doesn't happen. And they're also like you said, they're staggered. So that way one will pass over top of the other one. The dangerous area is if you got your line right there, that the lower one doesn't hook the upper one's line. Mm-hmm. So, and also moving on to the next one, the crane on the right is also considered a top slewing tower crane, but it is a luffing top slewing tower crane. And after talking to our tower buddies, the luffing ones come in real handy for, let's say you're still low on a project and you got buildings, skyscrapers already in the vicinity. Well, a luffing one, you can change the radius so that way, let's say you got space over on one block, but then you got a tower right behind you. At the end of the day, these things are kept in free swing, so they're at the mercy of the wind. Well, with a luffing one, you can boom it up, so that way, if the wind catches it in whatever direction, no matter what, it's not going to hit the one building that's sitting inside the circumference, the diameter of what the tower crane's capable of.
Yeah, that's an interesting crane. Here's an interesting fact. I believe the luffing refers to the booming up and down. And I believe I have to do a little more research, but I've learned that working with bears, if it moves like that, they call everything luffing. So I believe that is some sort of terminology there. But that's the luffing. That's what they mean by it, booming up and down instead of trawling in and out on a fixed mast, which, that's what the term luffing is.
Oh, yes. So, and then the one on the right, and this is where a lot of tower crane operators get their start, because you don't typically just jump right into the seat of a tower crane. Everybody starts somewhere, and for tower operators who are generally by themselves, they'll start on the right, or on the crane on the left, which is a self-erecting crane. Now, I've worked a couple jobs when I was a kid as a framer, and we had a self-erector on the project, and it pretty much, a guy came in with a pickup truck with a trailer with this contraption, backed it into the location, set up the outriggers, threw a little bit of counterweight, and this thing just popped up itself, and we stood on the ground with a remote control, and we're able to fly in all of our product. So here you can see another picture of a self-erector. The one on the left is a packed up self-erector on trailers ready for transport. The one on the right, I kind of got a demonstration of what it looks like when it's unpacking itself, because it's really cool and intricate how to watch all the pennant lines and the cables come together once these things unpack.
Indeed, and some of them, I believe the one on the left, the mast would be like a telescopic cylinder. The one on the right actually stacks tower sections into it. It'll jack itself up and stack tower sections inside of it. It has that ability to do that to achieve its height, the desired height they have for it. So
yeah, no, that's a trip. And not long ago, there was a picture or a TikTok going around of a tower with an operator cab mounted on a AT chassis. That one went around for a while, and a lot of people saw that was fascinating. And I've never seen something like that in person. So that was, amazing to see that.
I think Grove makes one now that it's engineered for the wind farm sector.
Really?
It's actually like a hydraulic slipstick on top of a tower. It erects itself and then it squirts its boom out. And it was engineered specifically for wind farm use.
No kidding.
The GTK 1100, I believe is what it's called. I've been fascinated with that one because it's actually like a 450 ton or 550 upper.
Yeah, I think I just seen what you're talking about on a stick, and then it's also got pennant lines running down to the outrigger.
Yes, that's it.
No, that thing, like I said, that is a trip right there, how that stays. It's amazing the engineering that keep these cranes vertical.
Oh, it's a yin and a yang. It's sweet and sour at the same time. It's so engineered based on such a simple principle. You know what I mean? It's a game of leverage and balance, but it's so engineered to work. With what we do out here with
Dude,
the things that we have to deal with. It's crazy. It just boggles my mind.
It really, and you summed it up perfectly. Cranes are nothing, are essentially just a lever and a pulley put together, because the concept couldn't be more simple. More weight here allows you to pick weight here, and don't let this weight exceed this weight.
Exactly.
That's all there really is to it when you break it down to its barest form. So let's carry on to our next class of crane. Here we go. This is probably, I'd say, the most common type you're going to see out in the world for medium to large picks. And these are all-terrain cranes, or we call them AT cranes. Josh Louette is from Canada. He swears by the name mobile crane. So like I said, they come in anywhere from a 40-ton all the way up to a 1,300-ton, depending on your manufacturer.
These cranes are the bread and butter of the oil field because they're so mobile. They can accomplish so much different varieties of work. A lot of times we'll even take our larger cranes, like the one on the right, If we don't have a smaller one on the left, we can send it with a different counterweight package and bill it as a smaller crane. But we can also put full counterweights on it and pick up a 200,000 pound compressor in the oil field and get it swapped out or loaded. They're rather versatile. You can go into the lower and lock all your diffs so all those wheels will pull. And believe it or not, we've gone through some pretty serious mud in South Texas, locking in all the diffs. All right, this one here on the top is in a transport mode. It's in what's called the dolly. And this particular one, you have to check your load charts, but it'll tell you to scope out a certain amount of boom so that you can make weight. And different states have different regulations. You would think DOT would be the same across the country, but every state has their own variations of the weights they allow based on the infrastructure they have in the state, whether that be bridges or whatnot. Like in South Texas, we run pretty much all of our cranes in the cradle, which would have been swapped around, and like you saw in the last picture. But when we travel to Louisiana from Texas, because we do work all over, it has to be in a dolly to meet the DOT guidelines here. So there's a lot of little things. There's some cylinders that you have to open up to allow the boom to float up and down as you go over hills. Otherwise, your dolly would just slam the ground. And you also have to free up the swing motors so that it can follow you like a trailer. And that's all stuff you really need to know before you find out. Let's see, this bottom one, I don't know, that looks like a third world country, but again, they're so versatile. They're just all over the world. They use these because of what they can do and accomplish. And it really doesn't take, but maybe depending on how many counterweights you're putting in and whether or not you're putting in the, some people call it the super lift. Man, you can have a crane up and running in an hour and a half. Okay, not these. These take a little more than an hour and a half. But generally, even the one on the right, to just stack those weights, if you've got a good operator, you've got your trucks lined up, I bet you could have that crane rocked out in probably an hour. The one on the left, yeah, you're going to have to do a little more planning and engineering, and that's when a guy comes out with a tape measure, a can of spray paint, and he'll mark center of rotation to the center of the lift. Your sales department is going to show up on the job site probably more than a month in advance for the one on the left. And a lot of times they come with engineered lift plans, diagrams, CAD drawings, exact weights are known. So yeah, there's a lot more involved in going into these larger ones when they start making large lifts.
Well, these are pretty much the jack of all trades cranes. They're quick to get in and out. They're quick to assemble. They're quick, air quote, quick to tear down in comparison to like crawlers and towers and stuff like that. I'd say their biggest drawback, though, is the fact that they have a large footprint. And although, you know, a crawler is still mobile, once these get set up, they're no longer mobile. They do take that time to tear down and rebuild on a job where a crawler could easily move itself around a particular job.
Or walk with the load. Crawlers do that all the time.
Yeah, no, that's true too. Although I know small ATs, similar to the next crane that we're going to come across, I haven't even seen a 240, a DMAG 245, an AC 220 does have a pick and carry chart for on rubber. I would never do it, but there is a chart for it.
Amen to that. I'd pass on that opportunity. These RTs, the bread and butter of a lot of pipe yards. This one's obvious. The one on the right is obviously set up in a wind farm. I doubt he's setting them to sell. He may be handling components to offload or maybe to tail the blades for the larger crane. They're really versatile. Again, you can break that crane down and move with, especially if they paid the money for the poly pads. an operator can get those pads loaded up and get that crane moved and set back up in no time flat. But these cranes are heavily used in the petrochemical industries because you can get them into a small, tight, confined unit, maybe to lift a pump or a valve or swap out a safety valve that needs to be replaced. These things, man, they're definitely the bread and butter for what they're designed for. Small, tight, compact job site, but also they have the maneuverability for rough terrain. Well, that's why they're called rough terrain cranes. So
I noticed you see these a lot on also infrastructure projects, super highways, bridge projects, along with crawlers to do the heavy lift. I feel like these are a yin and yang to a crawler, because with any crane, you want the reach, you want the capacity, and you want the mobility. But when you get one, you sacrifice another. With crawlers, you have the reach and the capacity and mobility, but you also have, time of assembly and cost. Where contrary to that, then you get the RTs, which they're mobile, they're cheaper, but you sacrifice reach and capacity and assembly, but you gain assembly time in that. So like you said, it's part of the give and take. When you don't need that reach and capacity, you go with the RT.
And they're also a great support to a crawler to be able to unload materials much. So if you have a flatbed of rebar show up, or you don't want to unload that with a crawler with 8 or 10 or 12 parts of line in it, these can get the materials unloaded a lot faster and get relocated and out of the way in a heartbeat.
Because you're not going to be unloading, rebar off of a truck with like, 13,000 or something like that.
I'll tell you one other benefit to these RTs as well. These are great entry-level cranes as well, to get your feet wet, to get job site experience and job site knowledge in how to maneuver the machine around and work the machine on the job site, because we all know ATs, there's a lot that goes into them, driving them down the road, setting them up, things of that nature. Generally, the more experienced guys get into those and kind of ride their career out in those. Crawlers, they can be entry level to an extent, but there's still issues with those, knowing where to track them, how to position them. An RT, I don't want to say they're foolproof, but there's room for error in them, because you don't have to have all your booms shot out. You can shoot out 70 foot of boom and do your work right there. And there you gain some experience, knowledge, skill, and then you can learn, I can shoot out a little more to reach over here. And, you can build that confidence in an RT a lot better.
Yeah. Oh, you made a great point there. So, all right, now we'll move into, everyday. We'll get out of heavy picks and heavy industry and into more everyday maintenance and construction. So what we have here are truck mounts, kind of similar to like a little brother of the AT. So these range from 40 tons all the way up to 115 tons. And again, they're ideal for mobile. They're ideal for multiple jobs in a day, and very flexible cranes. But when you don't need the size and capacity of an AT, then you get into these truck mounts, and they could be 1-man or 2-man crews. I know at my place of employment, we have 60-ton truck mounts that are considered 1-man, and then once you get to the 80, the 110, and the 115-ton, they're heavy enough and have enough rigging and counterweight where we actually have to put them on a separate truck, a support truck, to follow him around. All right, now this is my favorite. This is where I shine. These boom trucks. So similar to truck mounts, but a little friendlier on the operator. The one over on the left here is a 60-ton National, where the one on the right is a 55-ton National. It's essentially, you're taking a crane carrier, the crane itself, and you're mounting it on a semi-tractor frame. So it's just like that, marrying a semi and a crane. So these things are ideal for speed and location. You know, you get in, you get the job done, and you get out. These guys do 3 to 4 picks a day. Do a lot of maintenance service. HVAC units, setting trusses for construction companies. And these range from 10 tons up to 80 tons with enough stick to be like 75 feet of stick all the way up to 151 feet of stick. And the little brother to those, because they come in 2 classes. The swing seat, which the operator sits in and swings with the boom, or we call these neck breakers because the operator's compartment is stationary and you are looking behind you over your neck at wherever the boom happens and the pick happens to be, which also requires a separate license. This crane right here, you need another different crane license than the ones on the previous slide. So do you guys got any comments on boom trucks?
Do not forget to put the front outrigger down.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you'll remember real quick when it gets washy on you.
So this is where a lot of guys get their start, is on the small cranes. Like I said, these 2 cranes here that are shown, especially with the crane forward and the bottom one is the crane to the rear. Like these are probably 20-ton, 15-ton cranes, and it's a great starting point.
Mm-hmm.
The tricky part is you will flip a boom truck a lot faster than you'll flip any AT because they are a lot more unstable. And go ahead, Chris.
I'm sorry, I was actually going to say, you say a lot of people get their start in these. I think everybody ought to get a chance to get on these, for the reason being, if you can be good and smooth on these for as finicky as they can be, it'll definitely make you a better operator on the equipment that's larger. Yeah. These are far more difficult to run and be smooth than the larger cranes.
This is where you build your skill set.
Absolutely.
I got one more. There we go. Moving in. So the top picture is the biggest is the biggest boom truck. There is a Terex 8000 crossover. It is an 80-ton crane. So I put a picture up on there because I just think they're cool. And below is the hybrid. These are tractor mounted boom trucks. They are quite literally a straight up combination of a semi-tractor and a boom truck. And the biggest one I've seen is the one on the left. National took their 30-ton boom truck, fixed cab, chopped a bunch of stick off of it, stuffed it on a tractor frame, and put a 5th wheel hitch behind it. And honestly,
those actually have a 5th wheel plate that you can pull a trailer with on those.
If you see the picture on the right, there is a trailer that is hooked to it, and you can make the picks with the trailer attached, but you run out of capacity by the time you get to the end of the trailer. So a lot of guys will drop the trailer and then back in perpendicular to it to make their picks, because these cranes only have about, the biggest one, the one on the left there, has about 79 feet of stick on it, which is just enough to get you to the back of a 53-foot trailer.
I've seen a lot of those on like brick delivery trucks, like they'll be unloading. It's great for delivering something to a job site, unloading itself, and then leaving.
Exactly.
And leaving the material for the job.
Because unfortunately, they're great for what they do, which is getting self-unloading. You get outside of that, and unfortunately, they are the worst of 2 worlds. So when it comes to trucking, you want light trucks so you could carry more capacity. Well, adding the crane on there makes the tractor heavier, limiting how much you're able to carry. On the flip side of that, the crane aspect of it is you've lightened up the crane and you've chopped off a bunch of stick to make it lighter. Now you're limiting what it can do as a crane as far as its reach and capacity So you're kind of getting the worst of two worlds by making a tractor mounted crane.
Absolutely.
That is my personal take on tractor mounts.
I think it's interesting that one down there on the bottom right is Tadano. I've never seen a Tadano
Oh yeah,
boom truck. That's just kind of cool. Just a little offside over here. It's just off-topic subject here. It's kind of neat to see. I didn't never seen or heard of it till just now. It's cool.
Nice.
Travis, let me ask you, being that this is your bread and butter, like the one on the top right there, that 80 ton, I know from I say experience, I've actually seen one rolled over on a off ramp because the guy took it just a little too fast, and that one is very top heavy.
That one is incredibly top heavy.
That particular model is very top heavy, so that presents challenges in and of itself. But just the class crane that you generally run daily, do you ever have problems with like wind shear or driving down the highway and maybe a reefer blows your doors off going by and creates that vacuum?
Not necessarily, because it's a straight truck. It's essentially a straight truck, but very heavy. So, I mean, it's stable as far as the wind is concerned because the sheer weight of it. I mean, that 80 ton right there weighs 110,000 pounds.
Oh.
My 40 ton weighs 70,000 pounds. So they got some heft to it. But again, they're only 8'6" wide and 13'6" tall. So there's a lot of weight really high up. So again, the biggest problem with the boom trucks and why truck mounts are essentially better, or where they're better, is stability. Because boom trucks have a lot of weight up high, where truck mounts, they're lower to the ground, they have a lower center of gravity, and they're harder to tip. Boom trucks you could tip going around a roundabout. Like, honest, I swear, with my 40-ton boom truck, if I were to throw it in granny low, dump the clutch, step on the gas, and crank the wheel, I could lay it over. You really do have to know how to drive one of those. And even I was talking to a certified national crane mechanic, and we were talking about the Terex's 8000. He said Terex actually, when these cranes came out, they were the most popular boom truck on the market. Everybody loved them because of the versatility and the speed in which a boom truck can get from point A to point B, operator comforts. But guys kept flipping them over because of how top heavy they are. Terex actually had a plan to build a 110 boom truck.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, but they ended up having to scrap it because they were having so much problems with keeping their 80 tons upright on rubber.
Wow.
At what point does it become excessive? You know what I mean? Cool. No, great. I'm not knocking it, but 80-ton boom truck, 80-ton truck mount. I mean, is it a cost thing? Is it, why would they consider a 110 boom truck when, Lynn Bear's got a 110 AT, the 9000E Grove is 110-ton market, 115-ton market. I mean, is it a cost thing? I assume these are cheaper to build and engineer.
I would say it is, a lot of it is a cost thing and a mechanical simplicity and maintenance issue. Because I mean, generally ATs are more expensive than truck mounts, but they are also a lot more complicated, and more moving parts means more chances of something going wrong than, say, a truck mount or a boom truck. Because these things, they're fairly simple machines versus an AT, which has all those independent hydraulic steering and countless other things that puts it, more or less, they are superior cranes, but they're a lot more expensive and a lot more difficult to maintain. So I think you're right on the mark with that. And when it comes to truck mounts versus boom trucks are cheaper to operate than truck mounts. The downside is for boom trucks is that truck mounts are designed to take the whole weight, where a boom truck is a semi-tractor, and now it's under load all the time with carrying that crane around there. So they do tend to wear out faster than a truck mounted crane would. It's kind of like you said, it's different situations. It's cost versus longevity. So, it's how much does a guy want to shell out right up front? It's also, operator comfort. Driving down in that in a boom truck, you're riding in a Cadillac. You're cruising down the road in a semi-tractor. You're riding down the road in a truck mount, any given pothole, and you're going to lose your teeth fillings. You're going to start, kidney crunchers.
I've had a cell phone shoot out of the holder and over my shoulder, and I thought it went out the window.
Oh, man.
Yeah. No, I can see the simplicity in it, being that it is basically a semi-tractor, and that's a fairly common mechanical area. As semi-mechanics and all that is cheap to maintain. So I guess I understand it there, why they would want that.
So, all right, let's move into our, getting close to the end here. I've given a lot of guys, I've poked fun at the overhead operators, but here we have a next class of overhead cranes.
Those are cool.
They are cool. They're fun. They come anywhere from a guy standing there holding a button to having its own cab that rides along with it. If you see the one on the lower left, actually has its own compartment for the operator to ride with it. These you're going to find industrial all day, heavy industry all day long, and factories, mills, anything with repetitive crane movement to move heavy objects in a manufacturing setting.
And these things can get some weight, all day long. At a foundry, they'll move 100,000-pound slack box full, take it over, dump it, set it down, grab another one all day long, repetitively, multiple times a day, like it's nothing. That's what they're designed to do, and it's amazing the amount of weight they can get. You wouldn't think that looking at it, unless you really sat there and thought about it. You're like, that's a lot of weight.
So the cool ones are these pictures that I found. The picture on the bottom left and the picture on the right, those are actually NASA's overhead cranes in their vehicle assembly building. I think about a year or two ago, they recently went through and remanufactured all of their overheads or working on updating their overheads. I think the one on the lower left is a 250-ton, where the one on the right might be a 750. And these are the cranes that put the Saturn V together. Or they're also now, or they used to stand up the shuttle and move the shuttle over to attach to the rocket boosters.
That's wow.
So that's just fascinating and amazing. Here we go. Here's the fun little ones.
Oh, the little carry decks. Man, these things are great for what they were designed for. The one on the top left, I think that's an IC80. We use a lot of those in the petrochemical industries. A lot of times they'll have pumps or motors that are built underneath a floor of a structure. So you have to reach out, keep it low to be able to pick those out. And the great thing about it is you can pull that pump or motor and set it up on the deck of the crane, strap it down and take it to a repair shop. A lot of times it'll be inside the refinery itself. They can rebuild that pump or motor, redo the packing, and then go put it back in all in a day's time. If you look at the one on the top left, it's even got a pintle hitch on the back. So you can pull a trailer full of pipe or other materials or whatever they may need to go do a job. And they're actually really smooth little machines. Now that little shuttle lift down there at the bottom, not particularly a fan of them, but it's great for what it does. The one on the top right is a 15-ton actual. Kenny, am I right to say that one has 60 foot of boom, just like the full size 15-ton?
I don't think it's quite 60. I think it
might be 56 or something weird.
54. I think it's something weird. Main boom, and then you can plug the jib on, I think.
But that one's pretty friggin' stout, and you can pick and carry a load with that one too. You can either carry it on the hook, there's a chart for that, or again, depending on what it is, set it up on the deck. They're pretty low profile. They can get around and they're very maneuverable. They've got round steer on them. I think the little shuttle lift does not have round steer. It steers like a forklift just in the rear. which is kind of a unique experience sometimes.
It can be if you ain't ready for it, yeah.
Oh, absolutely. But those Brodersons, man, as far as carry decks go and neck breakers, they are hands down my favorite line.
I agree, 100%. The IC200 up there in the top right-hand corner is a solid little machine for what it does. I enjoy running them. They're smooth, they're stout, they're strong. If you can get the hook to it, it's probably going to pick it.
Oh, absolutely. And then the outriggers are self-contained. They go out diagonally at all four corners like you see in the top left. You just have to be very careful that when you're putting them out on your blind side that you've either got somebody flagging you or you're 1,000% positive you're not about to put those down on top of something important.
Like somebody's foot.
I've seen somebody flag an outrigger on top of their own foot. I have seen it happen.
Oh,
That's no bueno.
all right, let's get a little smaller.
Woo.
Little spider cranes.
I've actually tinkered with those in the shop.
Dude, I think that I've played with one of these once. It was similar to the one on the upper right, and it was a cool little toy. It's like the mini X of cranes.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I know the one on the left here, I mean, you could run that into an office of like a finished office building. Let's say you had to go move or pull some switch gear, electrical panels, or a motor maintenance work in a tight boiler room. But you have to get through the office to get there, and you could fit that through a 3.0 door.
Mm-hmm. And they're battery powered too. They can be battery or plug it in and you run it off electricity as well. So
no, I did
not know that.
There are so many types of cranes out here, which is why we did this podcast to kind of show what they are and what they're used for. And that is so. I mean, again, guys, if you made it this far, thanks again for listening and watching us. Like, we're trying to, better the crane world, get more awareness for it and help educate and get people interested in this line of work. If this looks like something that you might be interested in doing for a career.
Oh, absolutely. We definitely need to train the future generations because some of the people that are out there think it's an easy job to get out there, find it's not, and you run the risk of getting somebody hurt if you take a shortcut. So it's kind of what we're gearing for, training the next generation of operators behind us.
So, all right, well, real quick recap. Like I said, we went over crawlers. Great for long-term jobs on projects to where you need to move the crane around the project, and of great capacity. It's probably the largest capacity type of crane that there is.
There's some that get bigger, but yeah, as far as mobile crane, yes, crawlers generally are the largest capacity.
One type that I didn't touch on, where you want to talk about like ring gears?
Ring cranes, yeah, like the big PTC, the Mammoth runs around with. They actually break the boom sections down in the containers that are on the back filled with sand.
Yeah.
They stuff it in them. They stuff everything in them containers. It's a parts container. PCT, parts container, or something like that. I can't remember off the top of my head. I'm getting boggled. But they actually stuff them in them shipping containers.
Nice.
Around the world.
Oh, that's crazy. So, yeah, and the tower cranes, you'll find those in urban areas and downtown city centers because, again, great for long-term projects. Tiny footprint, so they work great on small job sites. So we moved into the jack of all trades, the AT cranes. That they are fast, they're movable, they're quick to put together, they're quick to tear apart. They could be moderately priced. Onto the truck mounts and boom trucks for small jobs that you don't need a crane there for that long. I do 1 or 2 picks per job and do 2-3 jobs a day. And then you guys got to see the small cranes like the carry decks that you'll find in refineries and industrial centers. The overhead cranes, again, a lot in the industrial centers where you're doing multiple picks a day in a repetitive jobs where you're going to pick, set. That's a lot of times what the overheads are for. And then also at the very end there's cool little spider cranes I thought I'd throw in for the fun of it.
that was neat.
So anyways, you guys, thanks again for listening. Do you guys have any other closing thoughts before we round this out?
Next time, let's talk about the sea cranes. Those go up to 6,000 tons.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about those. The floating cranes on the barges and stuff. Oh,
Yeah,
or
not
even
my cup of tea. Not my cup of tea. Because when I pick something up, it's because I moved it, not because the ocean moved it.
and we're gonna have to get Moose here for that because he
I
used
was
to
gonna say,
work.
he would be a good
He
one to
came
follow
up in the shipyards on a barge. So, and then also I didn't bring in container cranes, so that was another one aspect. So there's a plethora, a ton of styles, each designed for a specific type and purpose.
Yeah.
So, all right, guys. Well, again, thank you very much for listening to our Crane Talks podcast. We're going to try to do these at least about once a month. So check us out on YouTube at Cranetalk on YouTube. I'm also, again, Timberline7. You can find me on TikTok.
Crane Guy 76.
And you got the hack job here, also on TikTok as the hack job. And also TikTok, we have Crane TikTok as well, is on there as well. So you can find it on YouTube and TikTok. And we do appreciate you guys making it this far in the podcast and listening to us. We're grinding away at it. We just want to bring it and have some fun and share some knowledge out here to everybody.
All right. Well, like, share, and subscribe, and leave a comment below. You guys have a good day.
Later, guys.